And the president, he talks of his being not unstoppable. My advice to him is that he's only unstoppable if he's operating within the law. The moment he steps outside the law, he's stopped by the constitution. And he's not an emperor. He's a servant of the people. He's not a king. He was elected to serve and he earns a salary. He's not a regent, he's not a king. So he should not begin fooling himself that he's a king that's going to rule, that he runs this country like a private kiosk. You have seen his obsession with roadside road declarations. Wherever he goes, he's declaring projects, declaring projects. What happened to the budget that the parliament passed? So all these things are there. And the fight we're having now is a fight over Chapter 12 to make sure that the public finances are protected, public assets are protected, and we are going to do everything possible to remove money from his control because the treasury as it's constituted now is unconstitutional. The treasury is not supposed to be under the Minister for Finance and therefore under the President. It's supposed to be independent and serving the 48 governments, the one national and the 47 county governments equally. So those are the things we are going to take up. A budgetary corruption and using the budget to steal from Kenyans, we are going to fight and stop it. Money that has been stolen in the past through the budget, we are following it and we are going to follow those people. Article 225, clause 6 is very clear that if you are in political office or in the civil service and money is lost under your charge, you are liable, whether you are in office or not. So we want to invoke these clauses and ensure that the assets of the people of Kenya are protected and their taxes are also protected and are accounted for. So the president should stop fooling himself that he's above the law. He's not. We are going to ensure that he rules this country or he governs this country according to the law as a servant of the people and not a master of the people. So he should stop issuing threats. The sword was given at Kasarani was a ceremonial sword. Our national anthem, if he thinks that sword is going to penetrate the republic, he should listen to the national anthem, which says that justice be our shield and defender. So that sword that he thinks he's going to be proud of cannot penetrate the demand for justice and the right to justice that Kenyans have. And the custodian of justice in this country is the judiciary. And we are going to make sure that what is rightfully ours remains rightfully ours. If he changes course and rules this country according to the law, we shall support him. But if you want to rule this country as a rogue individual, we are going to stop him. We're not going to spare him, we're going to stop him.
Welcome back to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. Clouds are gathering, and dark clouds for that matter. And there is an air of fear, despondency, and intimidation in the country. I was talking to some old man somewhere, and he was telling me that, Achando, I can feel the air that we had during the Nyayo era. And he was telling me that step by step, second by second, he can sense that we are degenerating to the darkest days. A few days ago, the President of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto, made startling statements, very unfortunate, that the sword that was handed over to him by his predecessor, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, was not for cutting vegetables. It was to deal with those people who are opposed to his policies. Those who know William Ruto well knew that he was not joking, and they took the statements of William Samoei Ruto very seriously, notwithstanding the fact that the sword that William Ruto is handed over during that inauguration is a ceremonial, in fact a golden sword which is ceremonial. But they said that you never joke around with Ruto's statements. The Law Society of Kenya released a statement condemning it. Martha Karua and the entire opposition condemned it. But if there is one person who summarized the whole thing, is lawyer Otiende Amolo. Otiende Amolo said, so overlooked in Bunge, and now threatened with beheading. Beheading is chopping off your head. So overlooked in Bunge, and now threatened with beheading for litigating the legality of the housing tax. This threat is not just to the parties and lawyers, but it's directed at the courts on a pending case. This is how far we have sunk. And ladies and gentlemen, today, one of the people at the center of the housing levy controversy is the Busia Senator Okia Omutatah. He's the one who took that bill to court, and when the courts overruled William Ruto, you understand that there was a lot of intimidation, and hours after the declaration and pronouncement from the court, we were told that the government was to continue collecting the taxes until 2024. And of course, you know what is now happening in Parliament. So Okia Omutatah, I think from advice from some quarters, because he's been an activist for long and he understands the threats, decided to go and report the threats because he felt that his life was in danger. And he went to Kisii because the statements, I believe the statements were made in Kisii, and that is why he decided to go to Kisii. So something is being reported there, that police officers in Nyanchua Police Station in Kisii County on Tuesday morning turned away the Busia Senator Okia Omutatah from filing a death threats claims against President William Ruto. Omutatah was sent away from Nyanchua Police after attempting to file another report at Mosocho Police Station in Kitutu, Chache South. Omutatah alleged that Ruto made death threats against him and others thwarting his policies during a church function in Cardinal High School, Mosocho, where he conducted a fundraiser on Sunday during Sunday, December 16th. And you see, someone must have followed very closely Okia Omutatah. So when he was at the police station and he attempted, a few minutes, because before you do this, I know there was a lot of surveillance around Okia Omutatah. And when he reached there, some phone calls were made. He was forcefully ejected. But Okia Omutatah has refused to be intimidated. Listen to what he's saying. That I have met a bullish OCPD who thinks he understands the law and has refused to take my statement. I will follow the law and ensure that this statement will be on record. Even if I fail to take Ruto to court now, he will not be president forever. It will reach a point where he will leave and we will challenge him. We want that matter investigated. You've followed the Kenyan politics for long now, that is if you have, and you know very well that in Kenya, when you feel threatened, you don't just keep quiet. When this matter came to the public limelight, William Ruto, very angry on that day, warned the parliamentarians that he wanted to see anyone who was going to vote against this bill that he claimed was going to create jobs for Kenyan youths after he did away with the Kazim Tani. That was the first threat. He was followed very closely by his deputy, who told the opposition not to imagine that they could oppose it because they didn't have the numbers. So from the onset, there was a choreographed plan to ensure that this bill went through, and of course, it went. Now, after, when it was taken to court, the judge who first gave the ruling against it was transferred. And everything surrounding the finance bill, the housing levy, is so precarious and intimidating that Okia Omutatah could not take things lightly. But then, the president is always known as the father of the nation. We cannot have a father who is intimidating the nation. Because during the inauguration ceremony, it is not only that ceremonial sword that is given to William Ruto. Together with the sword, he is also handed over a constitution. And so the sword gives him powers to mean that he's the head of the state, the head of the government, he's the head of the nation. It is a symbol of authority. But you cannot use the symbol of authority to threaten people. Because in our constitution, it is indicated that power belongs to the people. It is only the people who transfer that power to you so that you can exercise it on their behalf. And this takes me to something. Does it mean the power that William Ruto is misusing was not given to him? Because when you have power that you understand was given to you by the people, then you cannot use that power to intimidate them. There is also the aspect of the constitution. And he saw, when he was taking oath of office, there were two of them. One of them was to ensure that he respected the rule of law, that he protects the constitution. But we can see a government that does not respect the constitution. We can mention from the CSS that were declared unconstitutional. And at first, he didn't listen to them. Where are we headed? Someone is arguing that when people were fighting for change, from the period of the second liberation when people were fighting the Nyayo era, our president was deeply rooted in the tyranny, the tyranny of Nyayo, where people were being rained on, chama cha baba na mama, and there was detention without trial. And it might have been what has stuck in his mind. He wants to rule with an iron fist without respecting that constitution. And when people were fighting for a new constitution, he openly opposed it. And so he does not see the value of our constitution. But even if he doesn't feel the value, he swore, he took oath to protect that constitution, and that must remain. You know, people who went to court, or people who have taken William Ruto to court, are many. The Law Society of Kenya, Haki Africa, Civil Society Group, Okia Omutatah. And when people feel threatened, I'm telling you that people might resort to, very ugly measures. I was reading an article that the reason why there was an attempted coup in 1982 was because people were so squeezed, walikuwa wamefenyeliwa. There was no a breather. And so there was no way how people could express their disappointment and displeasure against the government. But you see, the new constitution has given us a right. You can take the president to court. You can go and for picketing. But even with picketing and demonstrations, the president unleashes the police. And this tells you that not yet Uhuru. You remember the book that was written by the first Vice President Oginga Odinga, Not Yet Uhuru. We have a country that has muzzled all the independent institutions. Our courts are not independent at all. They are working on behalf of the executive. It is the executive that decides what they want. The police that is supposed to be independent, utumishi kwa wote, anatumikia the executive. Sometimes you even want to sympathize with the OCPD who turned Okia Omutatah away because he was protecting his job. I know sometimes you have to rise up as a gallant Kenyan But then if you are in the situation and a phone call has come from maybe the Inspector General, IG, or from State House, Felix Kosgei, or from Ruto himself, what do? Do you tell him, no, sir, I must allow Okia Omutatah to record a statement? We are headed to the Kanu era. Mr. President can do a better job. We don't need to be threatened. And in fact, this housing levy, with all this happening, I don't think that there is a way. Even the judges who pronounced themselves on it, if this case goes to the appellate court, the government will win, I can assure you. But as they say, a luta continua. I remember as I complete, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend, was fighting, among other people, for the emancipation of the black Americans, the Negroes. There used to be a song, "We Shall Overcome," and I remember the famous speech, "I Have a Dream." There was that song, "We Shall Overcome." And even in this, people will overcome.